Hello everyone, I'm Sanchika from Eco India. I welcome everyone for the Sipher Eco webinar on good and replicable and innovative practices of tobacco control in India. This is a fourth session in the webinar series, and today's topic is using public interest litigation, that is PIL, tool for advocacy in tobacco control by Ms. Susan Samson, who is a director in the PAID Foundation. Now I would request Dr. Gupta, who is the president of the Sipher, for the welcome address and objective of the webinar.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Sanchika. So I'm delighted to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Rana J. Singh. So he's the Deputy Regional Director in the Union, Southeast Asia. So most of us, they know about him and they know his achievements. And I also welcome Susan Samson. She's from Baroda and she's from the PAID Foundation. Dr. Sanchika Gupta, she's Manager Projects Eco India. Mr. Rajiv Chaudhary is Program Coordinator RCTC, and all our eminent participants and public health students. And I can see many of the CSO members as well. And many of the participants from Northeast are joined, and that's a very good thing. So Strategic Institute of Public Health Education Research, it was established in 2018 with the fundamental purpose of creating a specialized public health workforce that can plan, execute, and monitor national programs and public health initiatives for tackling the emerging public health challenges. We are working in all the public health issues with a special focus on non-communicable diseases. And in last actually more than 51 months, we have organized more than 90 physical as well as virtual workshops and consultations. And now we are collaborating with ECO for these series of webinars. Resource Center for Tobacco Control, it is a joint initiative of PGI Chandigarh and the Union, and it is emerging as one of the most sought after platform that showcases tobacco control initiatives, updates, policies, resource materials, etc., from the length and breadth of the country, and even they are conducting international webinars now. It has helped in strengthening the National Tobacco Control Program to a great extent. Next, please. So the objective of the webinar, this webinar is just to sensitize all of you that how PIL can be used as a tool for advocacy in tobacco control. And the presentation, as I told you, is by Ms. Susan Samson. She's director of the PAID Foundation. The Resource Center for Tobacco Control under the Department of Community Medicine School of Public Health, PGI Chandigarh, they organized a national conclave on best practices under NTCP. The aim was to compile various initiatives undertaken by the states and document it at a national and subnational level with respect to Empower, WHO Empower and NTCP for effective tobacco or nicotine control. And 25 practices in the tobacco control from various states of the country have been identified as best practices in terms of outcome to strengthen tobacco control in the specific region or community. So we already had presentations by Dr. PC Gupta, Mr. Rajit Singh, and then I presented my work on ANS, electronic cigarettes. And this is the fourth in the series of these webinars. So Sipher was a collaborator in this event. And these case studies cover almost every year, every area related to tobacco control, from advancing leadership and management in tobacco control in India to changing taxation policy on tobacco products in the country. And the presentations by experts will help to increase awareness and facilitate cross-learning among the stakeholders for strengthening the NTCP in the country and sensitize the stakeholders on best practices for its replication in other states. So over to Dr. Sanchika.
Thank you, sir. Now I would request Dr. Rana, sir, for the opening remarks. Dr. Rana, sir, is the Deputy Regional Director, Southeast Asia in the International Union Against Tuberculosis and Lung Diseases. It is a voluntary organization which has played a significant role in influencing tobacco control laws and policies in India. He is pulmonologist and has consistently supported the center and state government in advancing their tobacco control agenda with technical assistance, capacity building, research grants, and implementation strategies along with his team over the last decade. He has conducted extensive research on the efficacy of integrating cessation support with patients' TB treatment regimens and has been headed the introduction of such program in 6 states in early 2016. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Over to you, sir.
So thank you, Ms. Sanchika and Dr. Rakesh Gupta. Thanks to Sipher and EcoHub for initiating this series of tobacco control lectures or webinars. Good afternoon to all the participants. So good to see almost 60 people are there on a subject which is rather not usual but quite complex. Related to public interest litigation or litigation in general, you see it has emerged as a powerful tool to ensure justice and equity in India, and has a profound impact on various social, economic, and environmental issues in the country. It's not only related to tobacco, which is the topic of today's discussion, but overall, if you see the history of public interest litigations in our country, they have been extensively used for various social, economic, and environmental issues. And whatever the most important social issues in the past, whether it was child labor, whether it was gender inequality and discrimination against marginalized communities, PIL has been used to ensure access to education, access to health. So this is something which I think all of us often read and often see around us. Secondly, yes, PIL has been used extensively on various economic issues like promoting transparency and accountability in government policies. This is very, very important. And the decisions which are made related to various economic sectors. Many PILs have also helped in exposing corruption and irregularities in areas such as natural resource management and public procurements. So this is again something which you see happening around you. Then third is environmental issues. I think public interest litigation or litigation in general, that is another area of environmental related issues where PILs have been used and played a crucial role in protecting environment and natural resources in the country. Additionally, they are also responsible to help in you can say in implementation of various environmental laws and regulations, promote sustainable development. So these are something which is happening where public interest litigations have been used. Very important issue you must be aware all of in a social issue. That is excellent example of how public interest litigation helped in drafting and then implementing guidelines of this you can say Shakha case, where we have now guidelines to prevent sexual harassment of women in the workplace. So all these public interest litigations has played an important role. Now you see, as far as tobacco control is concerned, if you have heard me in the past also, I think again litigation has played an important role. And most of the litigations, they were not most of the, almost all, they were driven by the civil society. Tobacco control is one issue where governments were grappling with economic issues related to tobacco. And there were very limited efforts globally. Globally, there were very limited efforts because lot many people are engaged in tobacco growing, tobacco industry, tobacco, you can say trade, revenue comes from tobacco. So there were many economic issues. So governments could not take those strong decisions. And it was again the civil society which tried to work with government. If things did not happen globally, then it was litigation. So public interest litigation, it is something not very new. Perhaps it was United States where first time US such public interest litigations for tobacco control. They were filed, and but the idea was a little bit different. Now it has been happening in our country, but here the idea of public interest litigation is to see that how we can really more with human angle is it's very important, that how we can ensure that the fundamental rights of the people as far as tobacco control, tobacco use is concerned, they are protected. Human rights issue very important issue. So that was why that public interest litigation after US, I think there are many good instances from Brazil, from South Africa, if we look globally. Then in our country, I think all of you must be aware of our smoke-free or public smoking litigation in Mumbai High Court. Then thereafter, public interest litigations have been used for graphical health warning. So there are important issues in our country where public interest litigations have been used at national level. So that was graphical health warning. Then third was related to smokeless tobacco, where which is really now, if you see the use of smokeless tobacco that has increased in last 25 years, if you see the tobacco use prevalence in the country. So smokeless tobacco control, that is another example. There are some local examples also. I think today we are going to hear how the public interest litigations have been used locally. There are, I remember, earlier cases of hookah ban in the state of Punjab, in the state of Gujarat, in yes. So in I think Ahmedabad High Court, Gujarat High Court. So there were some such instances of using public interest litigation for tobacco control, and I am also happy that most of the judgments were in favor of tobacco control. The courts really took a good note of all these public interest litigations, and they understood the concept. They understood the purpose of those PILs if done very seriously with the complete, you can say, scientific evidences. So they really pushed and helped the countries globally as well as India in advancing its tobacco control. So I think, thank you. Today we are going to hear some experiences. Thanks to Sipher and ECO for organizing, and welcome once again all of you. And our today's speaker is Susan Samson from Faith Foundation, Gujarat. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. And now I would request Ms. Susan, who is the director of Faith Foundation, for her presentation. Before that, I would like to introduce ma'am. Ma'am has been working in the field of de-addiction, HIV, AIDS, tobacco control, and women entrepreneurship and empowerment since 2003. She has been awarded the Best Youth for notable work amongst rural youth in the year 2006. She is also the Antidrug Hero Award winner by the Commissioner of Police in Vadodara. She is a member of Gujarat STCC, Gujarat State AIDS Control Society, Vadodara City and District Tobacco Control Steering Committee, and National Trainer for Tobacco Control, among many others. Now, over to you, ma'am.
Dr. Sanchika, I'll just request, because Dr. Rana has to go. So can we all switch on the videos and we can have a snapshot before listening to Ms. Susan? Please switch on the videos so that we can all have a snapshot. So sharing Bhutia, can you please switch on the video? Sukhjit, Charu. So Dr. Sanchika, you can have a snapshot. Dr. PC Gupta is with us. Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. With us, Garima Bhatt is there, and Dr. Aruna is there. So many people who are known to us. So Deshji is of course here with us.
Yes, it's done. I've taken the screenshot.
Okay, thank you. So now you can play the PowerPoint. So
Yes.
Thanks all.
Just give me a second. I'm just.
Oh, sure.
Can you see my slides?
Yeah, we can see, but it's not a slideshow.
Achha.
Yeah, now it's okay. Yeah. So Susan, sorry for the interruption, please. Yeah.
Very good. Good afternoon, everyone. On the onset, I would like to thank Sipher for organizing this wonderful series of learning sessions and experience sharing sessions. I would also want to thank Dr. Rana for his very valuable inputs and opening words. I would say that as I want to begin this presentation on public interest litigation used for tobacco control in our field, I would specifically want to thank Sipher once again for giving me this opportunity, because this was I made a first attempt to kind of study all of the PILs that have been done through various websites and all the resources that could be available to me, and made an attempt in the tobacco control conclave at Chandigarh, I presume in 2021. Just to begin with the presentation today, I would also like to thank Sanchika for coordinating the wonderful session. We have stalwarts and I should say my seniors here who can talk better on this issue, but this has fallen into my lap, and I'm going to try and justify it from all the study that I've done. To begin with, I would want to give a background on how was PIL conceptualized, or what is the concept of PIL. So PIL first emerged in United States, wherein it was the United States on public, wherein they initiated this in order for public participation in government decision making. The Indian notion of public interest litigation represents a moral and human process for providing justice to an individual or a group in matters relating to infringement of fundamental, the first slide, please. Thank you. Infringement of fundamental rights or denial of civil privileges. Well, the goal of PIL is to counter, just as Dr. Rana also said, is to counter governmental lawlessness, administrative deviance, exploitation of disadvantaged groups by denying their rights or entitlements. So I would say that judicial activism is a judicial philosophy holding that the courts can and should go beyond the applicable law to consider broader societal implications of its decision. So in short, PIL refers to the litigation undertaken to secure public interest, and it demonstrates the availability of justice to socially disadvantaged parties. And it was introduced by Justice P.N. Bhagwati. Next slide, please. Having a recognition of right to health as a substantial right in the Indian Constitution, we were, for human dignity also, litigations were to play an important role in catalyzing government action on issues where no specific legal frameworks existed, or often it serves as a precursor for developing appropriate legal frameworks, or again, for enforcement of existing legal frameworks. The earliest PIL in tobacco control is as old as in the year of 1993, 1997. According to my study, which I could find, I believe if there are any older than that, we may also revise it. And it was the one wherein a decision on prohibition of the use of any amount of tobacco in toothpaste or tooth powders was ensured. So this was in the case of Lakshmikant versus Union of India. An estimated of 100 PILs have been done so far, focusing on tobacco control and allied matters like environment, taxation, agriculture, etc. So various issues and the PILs done in the respective fields have been in CODPA implementation have been in section 4, section 5, 6 and 6B, section 7, ends, SLT, Gutka ban, hookah, tabs, just as Rana Sir was also mentioning. Next slide, please. Okay. To begin with, the earliest case which was there was on ban on smokeless tobacco in toothpaste. It was specific to SLT use. Rajasthan High Court upheld the central government's notification in 1993 that prohibited the use of tobacco in toothpaste. On an appeal, this was upheld in the Supreme Court again during Lakshmikant versus Union of India case in 1997. Next, please. Yeah, this also mentions about the pictorial health warnings, wherein Godfrey Phillips, along with ITC, challenged the validity of 2014 rules that require 85% graphic health warnings on both the sides of the tobacco products. Supreme Court stated that the operations of the lower court decisions and matters are yet to be decided on the merits is what I have known of. But the Karnataka High Court, with order dated 15 December 2017, squashed the 85% PHW as unconstitutional. So this is under debate still. Next, please. To mention, ban on minors' access to tobacco products. Several high courts in the countries have issued directions for protection of minors, as envisaged in the section 6. Ensuring that no sale of tobacco products to or minors in 100 yards is done. The very provision of implementation was given by direction from the Bombay High Court. Then the Karnataka High Court further directed the monitoring of implementation of the provisions on a monthly basis. And then Kerala High Court gave a detailed order for comprehensive protection of minors from exposure to tobacco and its products. Next, please. Ban on advertisements, sponsorships and promotions, section 5. So courts in India have issued directions in several corporations and several districts. But the distinct known to me is by the Gujarat, the one in which Gujarat State Road Transport Corporation and the Ahmedabad Municipal Transport Services were asked to remove the advertisements of gutka or pan masala displayed on public transport vehicles. And the directions that were given, one was to the tobacco advertisements and promotion provisions of CODPA, the state ordered that they have to be removed. It also disposed the petition when government gave an undertaking and included a condition in licenses to be issued by the municipal corporation, providing that when the licenses are issued, no advertisements on the hoardings or the bus, meaning the transport vehicles, should be shown according to CODPA section 5 and the accompanying rules. Next, please. Ban on gutka, very distinctly known. The Food Safety Authority of India prohibited the use of tobacco and nicotine as an ingredient in food products, since gutka is prepared after mixing sweets and sweeteners and condiments with tobacco. Majority of the state governments have issued orders and notifications. However, the states exempted, like Gujarat, have exempted gutka meant for export from these ban orders. Next, please. This is one case which includes ban on sale of smokeless tobacco in plastic sachets. And this was more from the environmental point of view also, wherein the Indian Asthma Care Society versus the state of Rajasthan, they said the Rajasthan High Court applied that the polluter pays principle on the gutka manufacturer being responsible for the plastic waste, and that they would be paying if the selling is done in plastic sachets. And this was in 2003. Yes, please. Next. Okay. This is one of the cases which I felt was very important in case of Section 6A and 6B is Pragesh versus Union of India in 2016, where not just an organization or a civil society, but an individual who is a student. He was a university student from the University of Allahabad who wrote a writ petition, and he asked for stricter implementation of Section 6A and 6B, specifically 100 yards non-sale of tobacco products and around the educational institutions. And the court passed the direction saying that all the temporary and permanent establishments selling tobacco within 100 yards of the education institution be removed. And then the temporary and permanent institutions within 50 meters of the 100 yards should be removed near the court and the district high courts. Sale of tobacco persons in parked cars on the roads or roadsides be stopped. And the fourth one was that strict action should be taken against tobacco manufacturers who violate not just all of these, but also compulsory statutory warnings on the products. Thank you. Next, please. So what I was trying to conclude out of all of this is right to life in Article 21 of Indian Constitution has been expanded to right to health. And many of the courts have taken actions which weakened or delayed the enforcement laws related to smoke-free tobacco advertisements at the point of sale, graphic warnings on tobacco products, and even ban on, in some places, ban on commercial use of hookah. However, some cases have been overturned the regulations of state and municipal governments. The successful litigation by the industry challenging the ban on gutka and pan masala by various state governments intimidates governments trying to control tobacco. Yes, please. Next. So I believe that the Indian judiciary has been a pioneer in tobacco control, and it has directed the governments to curb smoking in public places, to prevent violations of non-smokers. We know of this phenomenal case of Vadodara versus Union of India, and the High Court of Kerala, K. Ramakrishnan versus the state of Kerala, and other cases where violation of non-smokers' right to breathe in fresh air and free from tobacco smoke. So several subsequent litigations are also strengthening SLT prevention in the country. Next, please. I believe this tobacco control litigations and initiatives are the only, are one best examples of judicial activism at its best. Next, please. And in this, just as I said that it was not, Dr. Rana was mentioning that most of the cases have been done by CSOs, not just CSOs, but two major stakeholders, if we see primarily the judiciary and the enlightened citizens. So it is any person who is enlightened, any individual who thinks that this issue needs to be taken up. And that is the very thing that has been done in the case of tobacco control, that we have had individuals also coming up forward. I also want to, not just these incidences, but also in the case of CSR, where we see Cyril Alexander's case versus Union of India. Then there are also cases now, newer public interest litigations and cases coming up, wherein the Federation of All India Farmers Association asked for to participate in COP7, which was squashed. There are also cases of now with the e-cigarettes coming up, we have plume vapor challenging the ordinance of PECA 2019, which was again squashed, and in the Kolkata High Court refused to stay the ban, but stayed the requirement for sellers to prepare a list of their existing stock of e-cigarettes, and not just that, but to submit such stock to authorities for disposal. So there have been newer litigations, not just by enlightened citizens and activists like us, but also people are using this tool to now weaken the Tobacco Control Act and the tobacco control initiatives in the country. So we need to work both the ways, and we need to be enlightened. We need to be informed enough to see how future, in the future, how the industry would be posting up various, not just emotional and social cases, but also litigations which need to be handled with a proper set of knowledge. Next, please. So I don't need to say now or emphasize anything more than saying that public interest litigation is an epitome example of the people, by the people, and for the people. It is for behavior change, it is for action, and it is for law to be implemented in the country, and specifically for tobacco control initiatives in our country. Next, please. I think it must be. So concluding is that I believe that PIL is not just a tool for advocacy, but the only authentic tool for action in case of tobacco control. The issues that gray areas like surrogate and indirect advertisements, dealing with wider issues of smuggling and corruption of confiscated illegal drugs, as in like the ones with not the statutory warnings or e-cigarettes, and of course the issue of tax evasion, etc., also needs to fall under the purview of PIL in some ways, and maybe the enlightened group here can think of where we can expand into understanding more of PILs being done in these kind of gray areas that tobacco control initiatives are seeing in the country today. So that is my presentation. I think the next slides would be of all the sites and books I have referred to. Thank you so very much. Sanchika, I hand it over back to you and for comments and discussion. Thank you. Thank you again.
Ma'am, for the excellent presentation. Now I would request Dr. Rakesh Gupta for the Q&A section of this webinar.
Thank you, Sanchika. So I think I will invite comments from the stalwarts in the field. So we have Dr. PC Gupta, Dr. Rakesh Gupta from Jaipur. So first I'll invite Dr. PC Gupta for his comments.
Thank you, Rakesh.
Thank you.
I think the particular topic by public interest litigation for tobacco control is an extremely important topic as far as India is concerned, because I think already explained by Susan, these have played an extremely important role in advancing tobacco control in India. And the reason is very clear that the industry, tobacco industry, like everywhere else in India, is very rich. And in fact, it's more complex in India. It's not just one industry, but a whole spectrum of industries. And they seem to be opposing one another at times. And at times, they all seem to be working in cohesion, also taking each other's help. And any progress, any advancement that we propose, the government proposes for tobacco control, they try to thwart it, negate it by putting a case. And of course, the things are done very strategically. They select which court to put a case, and how many different places. They have huge amount of funds, so they can apply all kinds of tactics And those of us in public health who want to advance tobacco control need to think very strategically how we can counter the tactics of the tobacco industry. I think it has been happening, and so far the tobacco control and public health community has been reasonably successful. But the issue is that we have to be vigilant all the time, because the industry, as I think Susan also mentioned, for example, even for the law that has happened about electronic cigarettes and various provisions of COTPA, still they keep on testing. They increasing the tolerance, whether they can go further. Like in the case of advertising, we are already seeing that, how they can take advantage, slight loopholes change and interpretation of words and all that. So although we are doing well, I think we have to be even more vigilant as far as future is concerned. So thank you all very much. I mean, this is a very important topic for tobacco control. So thanks to Rakesh and ECO for organizing this webinar.
So thank you, Dr. Gupta. Thank you, sir. And Dr. Rakesh Gupta, please. You're muted, sir. You're muted.
Good evening, all, and thanks, Dr. Rakesh. Best compliments and adoration to Susan Samson for describing this topic so well. And I think whatever we have gained in tobacco control mostly has come through the PILs, one in the courts, various courts, and it has been quite a task. And being totally ignorant of this aspect of implementation in tobacco control, but a big admirer of how this can achieve really a lot of success. I think this gives an encouragement that yes, people should go for PILs even as individuals. There are emerging issues and like tobacco vendor licensing or tobacco free generation and several other issues, or even like COTPA amendment as to why it is not happening, which is a human rights issue in a way. I think we need to really be more active, and our activism should be perhaps get more strength through the people who are in the law, who are qualified for the practicing law, and how they can support us. And I think that's one way. I must admit that yes, this is not happened through the people like us who know about the tobacco control nuances. It's primarily that nobody wants to go to the courts very often and stand there in front of judge and see as to how you are going to speak or what is he going to say. I think that's one big barrier that we have. If that can be overcome, I suppose tobacco control will definitely be strengthened further. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak, Dr. Rakesh, Sipher, and ECO India. Grateful actually to have been exposed to this topic in more details.
So thank you, Dr. Rakesh, for your comments. So I'm sure that comments by Dr. Gupta and Dr. Rakesh Gupta, you will benefit from those comments. And Susan's presentation was really excellent. So anybody who wants to now talk or ask questions, so Dr. Susan is available with us. Dr. PC Gupta and Dr. Rakesh Gupta, they are also with us. So anybody can ask for any questions, or if they have any comments, you are just welcome for comments.
Sir, I believe Ranjit sir is here.
Achha, Ranjit is here.
So, Hanji, he can give his
Ranjit, I will like to listen to you also. Your comments on this presentation.
So I think Susan has done a very detailed and splendid job, sir. So and Dr. Rakesh also, what the day he said that a lot of our achievements in tobacco control has been through public interest litigation, and by CSO as well as individuals. And so if you take up right from the ban on public smoking, if you take it the Muralidhara case, or pack warning, you take the Ruma Kaushik case which came out in 2004, or the recent pack warning by Rahul Joshi, even the e-cigarette ban, if you see the Burning Brain Society started off in Punjab, and then you had something in Delhi also. So time and again, these issues have been cropped up, and the fact that anybody who thinks that the fundamental rights are kind of being, which could affect the public at large, and these are mostly cases which deals with right to life and right to health, and even I would say that public interest is one part of where you suo motu, or you go on your own and file cases. But there have been a lot of support from civil society where we have intervened to support the government. So we have filed, so where even industry has filed cases against the laws, the civil society or individuals have come together, they have intervened in case, they have put in the health argument, we have put in studies, and most of you surprisingly are all have been part of litigation. I remember PC Gupta sir when he went to NJT and put in the cigarette butts case, for which you have got the guidelines now. Then you had Dr. Pankaj going on to Supreme Court and explaining to the entire judiciary about the effects of smokeless tobacco. So tobacco community as a whole has supported a lot of these litigations, and I think this needs to be somewhere captured, that most of these laws and whether the framing of the laws as well as the defending of the laws have all been through public interest litigation. And Faith Foundation has also played a stellar role. They have played a role in the film rules in the Supreme Court, and on its own, Anand has filed a lot of public interest litigation on taps in Gujarat High Court. And so we've had time and again our own TC communities coming ahead and file whether on their own name or on the name of the organization, filing cases either to bring a new law or to defend the existing one. So I can only conclude saying thank you, Susan, for highlighting this topic. Yeah.
Thank you, Ranjit. So we heard comments from a legal luminary actually, and we use his advice since long in tobacco control, and we continue to use his expertise. So thank you, Ranjit. So anybody else who has a question or any comment, so you're all welcome. Sanchika, do we have any questions in the chat box? So there is a comment actually from Hema Pradhan. Thank you, sir. As India is the highest consumer tobacco, though it generates good revenue, but it is not good to play with the health of people. So it is just a comment, and we just agreed on it. Okay. So any other question or comment, please? You're all welcome. So we have Sharing Bhutia with us.
Rakesh,
So Sharing,
can I take the? Oh, sorry. You can go ahead with sharing first.
Sharing, do you have any comments to make? I'm not sure whether Sharing is available with us or not.
So if I may ask question
Yeah,
to
sure.
Susan and Ranjit are there, and it's for the benefit of all the participants. So what are the potential areas in which PIL can be done? What is their take on this for future? I mean, how do we go ahead to strengthen our tobacco control movement further through the PILs?
Yes, Susan, I think it's a very valid question. Can you just name the issues on which this PIL can be made?
Sir, I was focusing on it, and I believe gray areas like Section 5 violations at point of sale in terms of, hoardings and advertisements. I like where we are already working on OTT platform meaning showing smoking on the OTT platform. So if we can have an PIL regarding that, so that is one area I believe, meaning indirect advertisements, surrogate advertisements on the OTT platforms. That is one area we need to take up on priority basis. The others, I think Rakesh sir himself mentioned about TVL, tobacco vendor licensing. That is one area we can work as well. I believe Ranjit ji has some more to focus as.
Yeah, so I think to start with the inconsistency that we have with the Tobacco Board and the Tobacco Board Act, which is totally contrary to your public health interests as well as the the tobacco control legislation itself. So that is something we could go ahead of either kind of have a litigation where they change their mandate from promoting tobacco cultivation trade to somehow phasing out. So that's one thing that we could possibly look into, because it doesn't I mean apart from that, the gaps that has been given in COTPA, like smoking area, I mean, that's totally contrary to, if you read the preamble of the act, which says protect non-smoker, or protect them from involuntary smoke, or if you see the previous laws of the state government which said protection of non-smokers' health, all that is being violated through the smoking area. So that is one thing which is totally contrary to fundamental right to health, as well as the Parent Act, which is COTPA, and that's something we can file a public interest litigation for quashing that. Even I feel the exemption that has been given to advertise at point of sale, that's also a very questionable exemption, considering the name of your act is prohibition of advertisement, and it talks about elimination of advertisement. So these are some glaring contradiction that could be challenged in the court from two grounds. One, it's kind of contrary to the FCTC, our international obligation, the mandate of the law, COTPA, and also the fact that it is in violation of right to health, which is of every citizen's right. So these are three couple of rights that you can look into by challenging the gaps in COTPA, as well as the other acts which is contrary to. So there are other laws also. It'll take me a whole session where you have contradiction to, like the cable TV, which allows you to indulge in surrogate advertisement, based on certain earnings, etc. So those are contradiction also we could look into. We have done in the past. I think the child labor law, which was allowed child labor initially, was changed because of the PIL was filed by Health for Million Trust sometime in 2008 or 9. So there have been instances. So the gaps that's there in your existing law, as well as the contradiction or conflict with other laws, is something we can look into and file public interest litigation. And the grounds I've already given you, you can use the constitutional ground as well as the ground that it is contrary to your tobacco control laws. Yes.
So Rajit, there are two questions. One from Dr. Siddhi. What about surrogate ads? Though it may be exactly not related to our topic, but you can comment on this. What about surrogate ads? Do we have any legal action against it? And there's another question by Dr. Nidhi. She says that e-cigarettes have been banned in India, but many internet-based sellers are still engaged in sale of vape and e-cigarettes. So is there any way to ask for some legal steps regarding this?
So let me answer the second question first, e-cigarettes. So what you see, e-cigarette right now is, these are all violations. And there are two public interest litigation, one in Delhi, one in Rajasthan, so Delhi one has been disposed of with direction, but Rajasthan is still going on, where this is another way of public interest litigation, is where you have a continuous monitoring writ, which means that if you file a writ for monitoring the compliance of the law, we have done a lot of these litigation in different states. And most of us have been part of where we file and saying, section 6 is not being complied, section 4 is not. So similarly, you can file public interest litigation to look into the compliance of, the PICA, and these are all violations.
Yeah. And your comments on surrogate ads?
These online sale, promotion, all violation of. So that we can do. And as far as surrogate ad is concerned, there are some violations, but this has to be in depth read, because the surrogate ad that you normally see does not come in your actual definition of surrogate, which is your brand extension, brand stretching, etc. The fact is, because the advertisement which you see is of pan masala surrogate. And pan masala surrogate, pan masala is legally allowed to be advertised. So you, in a simple word, I will feel that if you see a product which is not a tobacco product, and you have a tobacco product with the same name or brand name and presentation, like your Chenny, this is a violation. You can file a case. If it's not being complied, you can take the matter to the court saying you need more surrogate. But something like you see very often is why, like Vimal or Kamla Pasan, there is no product of that in the market. And the Ilaichi adds an actual surrogate ad of pan masala. And then there is a Chotu which is linked with pan masala and sold together. So there's a whole lot of confusion, legal confusion they have created. We need clarity on that to file a public interest litigation. But on the other PICA compliance, we can surely go ahead and file it in anywhere in the country.
So thank you, Ranjit. I think Nidhi and Siddhi, they'll be satisfied with the answer. And we still have some time to go. So any other questions, please?
Rakesh, if I may ask a question.
Sure.
Our legal luminary Ranjit and Susan and Dr.
Yeah.
is present here, Dr. Gupta sir as well. The ministry says that almost 13 lakh deaths are occurring due to tobacco related illnesses everywhere, every year. And also the loss to the government exchequer is much more than the revenue it gets.
Yeah.
Now, does it not become, do not these points become valid argument to file a PIL against the government's center and in the center and in the state as to why it should not phase out or bring the end game to tobacco industry? Because we can keep fighting the small battles like the guerrilla wars on many fronts in the country, or should we all get united and just put one PIL and go for that as to why government is not doing what is required to be done?
Yeah. So I think Susan and then Ranjit both can answer this question.
So to answer this, I think it is an so I would always say Rakesh sir is like he wants that point blank answers to the questions, as in like, you know, whether yes or no kind of a thing. And we know that when it starts today, anything that starts today takes 10 years, 20 years, 25 years. In a utopian world, that is what we want, you know, an idealistic world that the tobacco industry phases out. And I very much agree with that idea, but it has to start somewhere is what I believe. And all of these litigations that have happened so far are somewhere a pop, you know, that happens to the ultimate end that we want. So of course, I am for the idea, but how can it be done? I believe that Ranjit ji and Dr. PC Gupta and stalwarts like you can better answer that. Thank you.
Just intervene. My point is very simple. We have an evidence from the government itself that so many lakhs of people are dying annually due to the use of a particular product in the country. Period. So why it should not be phased out? I'm not getting into the complexities. So yes, okay, I agree with you. But somewhere where it has to begin. That's my point.
So sorry. So I'll just come in to say that as far as the High Court and the Supreme Court, where you have you can look into the constitutional provisions and file for litigation, and so they are very clear. We have filed litigation in the past where we've asked for a ban on tobacco, putting it all these reasons, right? You know, the government-owned data about the health impact, the economic impact. The court is very clear that our role is on interpretation of law, and our role is where there is a gap in some law. So if there is no law on, suppose, on e-cigarette or smoking, then they could possibly look into the international treaty or convention and guide you as to how, like the Visakha judgment we all know about, of workplace on harassment, etc. Now, so the court refrains from entering into telling the government to frame policies. They said if it's a policy issues, at least in 2-3 judgments that has come out from UP and all, they have not kind of, because there's enough evidence to support that there should be complete ban on this product. But if you ban it, suppose, just like alcohol, like some states have done, the court will upheld it, saying that it is in the framework of constitution. So they will uphold a ban, but at the same time, they will not recommend because it's a policy issue. That's what is there. But having said that, we have tried through the state human rights commissions. There were direction from the state human rights commission of Rajasthan also, where an end game kind of question was asked. Even even from Maharashtra, there was a question asked on completely reforming the tobacco control law, but because they are not binding, the government did not come out with any cogent replies to the human rights this thing. But I think it's time where we should all collect the data and the judicial verdict, because there are enough verdicts where they have gone into harmful effects of tobacco, which we have recently used in Delhi High Court to get from judgment. In fact, what we are trying right now is to declare tobacco as res extra commercium, which means it has only commercial value, just like alcohol. Once that happens, then tobacco can be banned by any states. So alcohol has been declared to be res extra commercial, means the product only has commercial value. It has nothing else. So if once tobacco is done that or declared that by courts, it becomes easier to ban it by this thing. But if you ask me, how do we do it presently? If you file a case, the court will not, considering its policy issue, may not kind of indulge it. And we've seen in the case of Allahabad 3-judge bench, they refused to saying it's a policy matter. But if we work towards framing a policy or law or something by any state, then it is something that can be upheld, and then it be taken up by the courts. But it's high time I think it's something we can first frame a policy on end game by at least one state, even the smallest state, saying that this is how we intend to phase out. So something which what the government has done for SDG target, which they're saying by 2025 will reduce its prevalence to 30%. So that kind of target is something we can set it up, starting from one state and then take it up. But judiciary is somewhere in the past on banning something completely. They have, considering it's a policy, they have refrained from it. But yeah, I mean, why not? Let's get together and we can brainstorm and try it. There's enough evidence now, both on scientific evidence as well as the legal evidence on court going into. But the court takes everything into account, every recent judgment I can show you, but it just stops a step from saying there should be a complete ban. So, I mean, as much as I want to, but these are some complications that we have to look into, sir. So, but yeah, I mean, we can possibly come out with a draft and give to. I think we came out with after the Human Rights Conference, we did give a draft of endgame. But something we need to kind of push MOH more to at least look into.
So thank you, Ranjit. So Dr. Rakesh, I think you have got some answer to your question, but I am sure that we can continue discussing this issue in our groups, or you can, any one of you can just send me questions on Sipher2018@gmail.com. This Sipher 2018.
Thank you all, Ranjit specifically.
Madam Snehilata is a very thank you, Dr. Rakesh. And Madam Snehilata, she is a very senior teacher in St. Anne's School, Chandigarh, and she is really worried about the students using e-cigarettes. So, ma'am, I'll just tell you that we must all stop using that terminology as vape. Vape looks very harmless thing, but we should only use electronic cigarettes for these products. And as we all know that the PICA 2019 is already there and it is banned pan-India, but still we can buy these products from e-commerce sites and even on points of sale also. I agree with you. And I think many states like Gujarat, so we did actually best practice PowerPoint with Susan, and she just told us how good work the director, the revenue intelligence that is doing. and what good work police force in tobacco is doing, in Gujarat is doing. So it is happening, though I agree that the action is not to our satisfaction. In fact, it's not to your satisfaction and not to our satisfaction also. So thanks for the question and the comment. And Dr. Sanchika, I think your question is also answered. So it is freely available. I'm sure that it is very freely available, and many people like Ranjit, Dr. PC Gupta, Dr. Rakesh Gupta, Susan, we are all working on this issue, and hopefully Government of India will act on these issues. And recently, you see the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, they have issued a warning to all these companies who are manufacturing or dealing in sale of electronic cigarettes. So I'm sure some action will be there. So Hema Pradhan, she says, thank you for sharing with us your well. Oh, thank you, Hema. And Aruna, she says, feedback submitted also. Thank you. So I think it's my proud privilege now to propose a vote of thanks to all the seniors, Dr. PC Gupta, Dr. Rakesh Gupta, Dr. Rana Jay Singh, so Susan, then Mr. Ranjit. Actually, we keep on saying doctor to all those who are active in public health. So thank you all participants, and I'm sure that you like the presentation, and it goes to your credit that more than 80 people, they are still with us, and though it is already 4, and we have just actually this webinar was supposed to end at 5, so it is 5:02. So I think we are on time almost. So thanks all, and thank you for joining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.